It's 2026 and everyone is making their predictions about AI right now. Smarter models, autonomous agents, entire workflows being automated, and all of that is happening. But my predictions for 2026 have very little to do with technology. I think the biggest struggle this year isn't keeping up with AI. It's humans trying to make sense of who they are inside everything that is changing. We've gotten very good at talking about what AI can do, but we are much less prepared to talk about what it's doing to how people experience meaning, identity, and agency, both at work and in their personal lives. And that's what today's predictions are all about. Not AI predictions, but the human predictions that impact us most. I've worked with hundreds of organizations, including teams at Apple and USC, and now as an AI strategist, helping leaders, educators, and builders prepare for how AI is reshaping education and the workplace. Now, across all of these environments, I keep seeing the same pattern. People are doing everything they're supposed to do. They're learning the tools, they're adapting quickly, and they're staying informed. Yet something just still feels off. And that's not accidental. Stanford's human-centered AI work has been pointing at this for years. The real impact of AI isn't just productivity or job disruption. It's how people experience meaning, identity, and agency as work changes, and that's what today's conversation is all about. So today, I'm gonna walk you through my top predictions for humans in 2026, starting with prediction number 1, what I call the visibility gap. One of the clearest patterns I see right now is that more people are struggling than we realize, and most of them are not saying this out loud. In 2026, I think one of the hardest things for us is going to be that we're gonna watch a lot of talented people struggle, people that we probably are going to know. And most of the time, no one's really gonna understand why. From the outside, it will look like AI is the problem. People will say technology replaced them, or that systems are broken, or that companies are doing layoffs because of AI. But what's actually happening is much more nuanced and subtle. Human skills like creativity, judgment, collaboration, and adaptability are highly valued, yet they often remain largely invisible when it comes to hiring and getting promoted. Research already shows these skills are rarely named, measured, or rewarded, even though employers say they matter deeply. So people end up with real strengths that don't really travel well through automated systems, one-page resumes, or AI-generated applications that all now start to sound the same. So as resumes become easier to generate, cover letters become easier to generate, they also become less trusted. And the system people were taught to rely on starts to break down in real time, and we don't have an alternative quite ready just yet. That's why those people who already have strong relationships, a visible portfolio of work, and a clear way of explaining how they think, and people who are able to translate their value by showing outcomes and ROI are going to be incredibly more successful versus those who are going to get overlooked because they don't have those items to showcase, even if they are incredibly capable. By 2026, a growing number of people look successful on the surface while often quietly feeling lost underneath. And this isn't speculation. A global report surveying technology experts found that more than 60% believe AI will deeply reshape how humans think, relate, and understand themselves, not just how they're working. In real life, that shows up as constant upskilling, staying up to date with this newsletter, taking the latest course, switching directions every year, or keeping up with the next best thing. Feeling pressure to optimize everything without ever stopping to ask, well, why am I doing this and how is it actually helping me in the long term? AI is going to remove friction from execution, but it's not going to answer these existential questions we have. And when meaning isn't addressed, struggle doesn't always look dramatic, but it begins quietly. It shows up as burnout, indecision, quiet anxiety, and disengagement and frustration. Not because people are weak or because they don't know what to do, but because sense-making doesn't scale at the speed of technology. The solution here isn't working harder or adding more credentials and badges. It's learning how to clearly articulate how you make decisions, how you approach problems, what trade-offs you notice, and where your human judgment and creativity shows up in your real work. And this means building proof of thinking, not just proof of output with a one-liner on your resume. It means writing, it means portfolios, it means presentations, it means shared projects, and 10 times better if you're doing this online online on a platform like LinkedIn or Substack. This means ultimately investing in relationships and communities where your thinking is experienced over time, not evaluated one-off in isolation. And it means treating your personal brand as long-term equity, not performance, not vanity metrics, but understanding that during a system transition, results won't be instant. So you need to start now so that your clarity and your work has time to compound in front of others. This is also why this work has to start earlier in schools and learning environments, helping young people practice articulating their stories, sharing their work and their contribution long before they are ever asked to submit a resume or a college application. Because if we don't help people translate who they are while the system is changing, many people are going to start to blame AI for what is really a visibility and a meaning problem, and that misunderstanding is going to fuel the next phase of backlash and distrust that we're going to see even more of, I predict, in 2026. And this brings me to prediction number 2, what I call the thinking divide. Another hard truth we're running into in 2026 is that AI still doesn't understand us the way we sometimes pretend it does, and not enough people are training their AI tools. They're still doing these one-off conversations. AI recognizes patterns, but it does not have lived experience. It doesn't know what season of life you're already in. It doesn't know the data about how your company or your organization has been performing. It doesn't know what your goals are, your aspirations, your visions, and it doesn't know the things that aren't being said, the constraints you're navigating, or which values you are unwilling to compromise on unless you tell it. And while AI won't replace humans, it is going to expose the cost of never learning how to think for yourself and create that type of vision. The real divide in 2026 won't be AI literate versus AI illiterate. It will be self-directed versus externally driven. People who wait for instructions, templates, best practices, or whatever somebody's telling you is trending in the moment on your social media feed, even though we'll have the illusion of learning, are going to increasingly feel disempowered and frustrated when they don't see results, because they're always reacting to somebody else's interpretation of what matters, not their own. Meanwhile, people who define their own standards, their own constraints, and their own values will feel calmer, even as change accelerates around them at the same speed for everybody else. You can see this divide clearly in how people are learning AI even right now. Much of that learning is happening through social media in real time, through reels, threads, and shortcuts. One of my favorite examples was how everybody told everyone to give an AI a persona and shared all these 100 prompts that people should use. And then it was agents and how everybody should start creating AI agents. Now, none of that is inherently wrong, but learning this way trains people to follow instead of orient. When you're always chasing the next update, you never have a chance to slow down and ask, does this actually fit what I need? Does this match my role or the system I'm either a part of or one I'm trying to build? And that is how people end up permanently in react mode, already 2 steps behind, even while they thought they were 2 steps ahead because they felt busy and informed. Now, this matters because the ability to frame problems is going to matter more than the ability to solve them. AI will solve well-formed problems faster than anyone can, but it won't be able to do that initial work. Humans are going to be valued for identifying the right problem in the first place. And by 2026, many people will realize they were excellent executors, but weak problem framers. And that gap will quietly limit their influence, decision-making, and impact. Social platforms reward speed, but those instincts work against you in a world that requires human judgment, interpretation, and long-term thinking. Now, at the same time, people will also continue to overestimate tools and underestimate trust. Organizations will invest heavily in these AI stacks while underinvesting in shared language, psychological safety, and decision clarity. When things fail, society blames adoption and technology instead of alignment and vision creation. The people who become most influential in this environment won't be the technical ones, but they will be the ones who can translate between systems and people without jargon, helping others make sense of what's happening and why. We already see this happening between the cell phone bans, the laptop bans, people blaming edtech instead of not really asking, well, what problem did these technologies set out to create in the first place, and what was happening along the way? So there's this quieter challenge emerging underneath all of this. As AI finishes sentences, outlines ideas, and mirrors our voice, people will start to struggle with authorship of their own thinking. Not plagiarism, but identity. what are we actually doing in the first place? They'll begin to question where their ideas came from. Why did we adopt that laptop program? Why did we integrate iPads? Whether they trust their own judgment and what actually belongs to them is going to create a lot of friction. Without deliberate practice and original thought, and in your vision and value alignment, that uncertainty will erode confidence over time, not only within yourself, but within your community as well. In 2026, the human advantage will not belong to the fastest adopters or the people chasing every new tool. It will belong to those who have clear thinking, those who slow down enough to frame problems, contextualize decisions, and stay grounded in what actually matters while everything else around them accelerates. Which brings me to prediction number 3, the backlash era, and we saw it start in 2025. By 2026, we are going to see a growing backlash, not just around technology, social media, cell phones, and devices, but around AI as well. But it won't come from people who don't understand the technology. It will come from people who feel disoriented, overlooked, or stripped of their agency inside systems that changed faster than their ability to make sense of them. When people can't see how decisions are being made and why, that is when their value starts to feel invisible. And when they're constantly told to adapt and to use this tool without being given clarity, trust starts to erode. And when trust erodes, frustration looks for an easy target, and we are all on a very shaky foundation right now, so AI is going to become an easy one. Now, this backlash won't always sound rational or precise, especially to those of us who have been doing the problem framing work and who have slowed down. It will show up as a blanket distrust of tools, resistance to adoption that the media is going to go crazy with, and narratives that frame AI as the villain. But underneath that reaction isn't fear of technology. It's response to misalignment and lack of vision. People aren't rejecting AI. They're rejecting it because it's introduced without shared language, without a story, without transparency, and without clear boundaries for where human judgment still matters. You see, it's not enough to just say like, oh, you're a human, you matter because of relationships, or humans are in the loop. We got to get more detailed. And when leaders say we're adopting AI, but can't explain how it fits their values, their workflows, or their decision-making processes, people are left to fill in the gaps themselves, and that is not a pretty place to be. Organizations will often misdiagnose this moment. They'll assume the problem is change resistance, or people being Luddites and not wanting to use technology, or lack of training or slow adoption. So they'll respond with more tools, more trainings, more work, and more pressure. But the real issue won't be adoption. It'll be motivation. It'll be alignment. People don't want to be told what the system can do. They want to understand what it's doing to them, how it's shaping their work, and where their responsibility and meaning is still going to lie. And without that clarity, even the most well-intentioned AI initiatives will create more anxiety than they will momentum. And this is also where social trust begins to fracture more broadly. As AI-generated content becomes harder to distinguish from human work, people start questioning not just what they see, but also who to trust and where their value even is going to come from anymore. When systems automate decisions without explanation, people stop believing those decisions are fair. And when leaders can't articulate the human reasoning behind AI-supported outcomes, credibility takes a hit overall. The result isn't outright rejection of technology, but it's a slow withdrawal of engagement and a decrease in our intrinsic motivation. The organizations and communities that navigate this backlash well will do something different. They're going to slow down before scaling. They're going to invest in shared understanding before trying to optimize and make everything efficient. They'll be explicit about where AI is used, how it's used, and where human judgment is going to play a key role. They're going to design visual workflows and playbooks that make decision-making visible, not opaque, so people see where their role is and how they can grow into different ones. In 2026, trust won't be rebuilt through better tools. It will be rebuilt through clarity, transparency, and leaders who are willing to explain a story, not just about what the system does, but how they think about the future and everybody's role within it. So where does that leave us at the beginning of 2026? If the visibility gap keeps talented people unseen, if the thinking divide leaves many stuck in reaction mode, and if backlash grows when trust and clarity are missing, then the response cannot just be better tools or faster adoption or more training. What's missing is a story. the container for humans. As change accelerates, the demand for human support is exploding. And I don't mean therapy, productivity, and coaching or another AI course. What people are actually looking for is time and space. Space to think, space to slow down, space to ask better questions, space to reflect with others around them who are navigating the same uncertainty. You see, workforce research already shows that the most in-demand skills of the future are deeply human. Things like our judgment, our creativity, our empathy, our ethical decision-making, and above all, our collaboration. But we are building AI tools much faster than we are building environments that help people practice and nurture those capacities. In 2026, that mismatch is going to be impossible to ignore. People aren't just asking how to use AI anymore. They're asking who they're becoming while using it. That's exactly why I created the Power Circle. Not as a solution to AI, not as a place to learn tools faster, but as a structured space for human sense-making. You see, inside a Power Circle, leaders, educators, young people, and community members slow down enough to make thinking visible. They surface judgment, values, and trade-offs. They build shared language about how AI is being used, where it belongs in workflows, and where human decision-making still leads. We also help organizations build their own power circles internally so that teams have a repeatable way to reflect, to align, and decide together as AI reshapes their work what they want that to mean for themselves. This work doesn't happen in isolation or in crisis mode. It happens with intentionality, in community, where context actually matters. You see, the people who thrive in 2026 won't be the ones chasing every AI update or adopting every tool first or posting on LinkedIn the fastest. They'll be the ones who stay grounded while everything else accelerates around them, who know how to orient themselves before they optimize, and who can move forward without losing themselves and each other in the process. And that's exactly what we do inside the Power Circle, and we hope to see you there.